Today is the day you will lose fat. Come see Dr. T at NJ Diet.
Easiest diet I've ever done. It's changed my life. Come see Dr. T.
Using blood work and DNA testing. 1-855-5NJ-DIET and NJDiet.com. Change your life in only 40 days with NJ Diet.
The Knights of Columbus were real headbreakers, true guineas. They took over their piece of the city. 20 years after an Irishman couldn't get a f***ing job, we had the presidency. May rest in peace. If I got one thing against the black chappies, it's this. No one gives it to you. You have to take it.
It's Jack Nicholson playing Frank Costello, talking about Johnny Russo a couple days ago. That was Jack in the great Martin Scorsese movie, The Departed. And what that means for us is Irish movies. You know, we've done an unbelievable 3 hours today. I know Oliveira doesn't like to look back, but I'm just telling you, Chuck Todd came on, was all fired up about this Lori Loughlin college scandal. Arthur Aidala really fired up how people like me kind of, conflate every Italian to be a member of the mob. Even Frank O'Hara that came on and talked about the actual case. Was it the Sicilians or Gene Gotti that killed Frankie Boy Cali? It's been an amazing show. So now we start this fourth and final hour of the day and final hour of the week on the Bernie and Sid Show, talking about Irish movies on this St. Patrick's Day weekend with our friend who is now here all the time because he's great. And he's the best film critic in the business by a distance.
No doubt.
Even better than Rex Reed, which we never would have said about 2 months ago. It's our good buddy Neil Rosen.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah. I think it's a real slight, Bernie, that they're not making you Grand Marshal in this parade.
Honestly,
who's better than you to do this thing? I mean, really, what
they actually picked Shaquille O'Neal because he sounds more Irish.
I'd rather sit home tomorrow and watch it on TV than be the Grand Marshal. Be honest with you.
Really? Well,
no, he really would.
Well, it's less of it's going to rain.
But I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But anyway, Neil Rosen, we're going to talk about, among other things, we'll start off with some Irish movies.
Some Irish movies.
St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Yes, plus some movies that are opening up this weekend as well. But we'll start off with some Irish movies. Before I tell you my favorite Irish movies, before during the break, Sid was telling me that what's your favorite Irish movie?
Well, I'll tell you this. Departed's great, but I have a movie that is not only my favorite Irish movie, one of my 5 favorite movies ever.
Go ahead.
And it's a story, and don't give it away, because I know you know it. Sean Penn grows up with the Westies. Ed Harris, Gary Oldman, those are his buddies. He goes to Boston, ends up working for the cops. John Turturro sends him back to New York City to arrest his childhood friends. In fact, Robin Wright played Ed Harris' sister in the movie. He ends up falling in love with her on the set, and they get married in real life. Make a long story short, the end of the movie, he's walking through the St. Patrick's Day parade, and he ends up in a blazing gun scene in a little bar with Ed Harris. As the parade is going on, they go back and forth between gunfire and the guys, with the skirts, what do you call it?
The kilts.
The kilts, thank you.
Kilts.
And it's one of the best, not just Irish movies, but movies ever about the Westies. And it ends on St. Patrick's Day, State of Grace.
State of Grace is a good movie.
Good call.
Really good movie. And then give me yours, Bernie, and then I'll give you my list.
I'll give you a quick list, all right?
Give me
you
a
got The
quick
Quiet Man, of course, John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, Barry Fitzgerald, Ward Bond. I mean, that's a classic.
John Ford directed. 1952.
Yes. Right.
Might be, it's between that, The Searchers or Stagecoach. Might be John Wayne's best film, is The Quiet Man.
Absolutely. I mean, it was set in Ireland, and I've been to the town where they filmed it.
Really?
I actually went to Cong, Ireland.
Did they actually film it there, or did they film it on a Hollywood back
filmed
lot
it right there in that town. In fact,
kidding.
all the buildings are still standing. It's a tourist attraction. But anyway, great movie. Love it. Great Irish stuff in it. But also there was a movie called I See a Dark Stranger. Do you remember this, Neil Rosen?
No, I do not.
Deborah Kerr and Trevor Howard, who was Leslie Howard's brother, the guy who played Ashley in Gone with the Wind.
Of course. I never got, by the way, Leslie Howard. I never understood, you're watching Gone with the Wind, and it takes place in the South during the Civil War, and here's this guy, Leslie Howard, with a British accent. It makes no sense. And nobody's ever mentioned that, and it's like, everybody's got a Southern accent, and he's like, oh, Scarlett, I have to tell you. I'm like, what is going on here? This is like this. It's the South in the Civil War.
It was a little miscast, but you kind of suspend disbelief is what they call it, right?
Well, that's true. Well, I'm going to give you a few.
Hold on, before you do, would you consider Rudy an Irish movie because it's Notre Dame? No, right? No.
Yeah, it's on the fence. But Rudy's a great movie. I wouldn't really consider it an Irish movie.
Right.
It's a true story. But that scene when Rudy, they put him in for the one play. I mean, that's
here's
a
the thing
great, and the family's there. I mean, that's a great scene.
Before you get to your list, this is why I almost suspended you for life last week. I don't know if you heard about this. But
No,
I almost
what
did.
happened?
You like all these schmaltzy. The fact that you really thought in your heart of hearts that Rami Malek deserved the Academy Award over Viggo Mortensen. Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you were happy. That was an insulting performance.
No, you're misquoting me.
Okay,
what I said is that Viggo Mortensen deserved the Academy Award, and that was my favorite performance of all those nominees. But I told you that Rami Malek was going to win the Academy Award.
Okay,
and
you were right.
Jill Flipper said that she was thrilled.
She's an idiot. He was insulting. There was nothing like funny. It was a candy school performance.
Growing up in the Bronx, right near that Arthur Avenue neighborhood where where that thing took place, Viggo was phenomenal.
By the way, Jill has come around and said she now does think that Viggo deserved it too. Credit to Jill.
I apologize. I said
to you.
I wanted Viggo. I said Rami was going. I told you if you're betting,
he said all
Rami's
the right
going to win.
All the
and
right
Rami
things.
won.
Well, what are you getting all crazy with the guy for that, Bernie?
And I also told you that, and everybody was saying Roma, that piece of garbage, was going to win. And I said, no, Green Book is going to win.
Yes, you did.
I said, and that was my favorite movie of the year.
All right.
So anyway, here's some Irish movies that are on the top of my list. All right, first of all, I really like, if you look at a stack of Irish movies, you got three directors really who are directing like most of these Irish movies. You got Jim Sheridan, who did My Left Foot, and he did In America.
Oh, big movies. Yeah.
And he did In the Name of the Father, which a lot of these Daniel Day-Lewis movies. I really like My Left Foot, by the way. I don't know if you've seen My Left Foot.
I have, yes.
Which is Daniel Day-Lewis won an Oscar, talking about Oscars, for that particular performance playing Christy Brown, this guy who had cerebral palsy, had no control of his body except for his foot, and he's banging soccer balls with his head. And everybody thought he was mentally challenged until he took his foot and he started writing like poetic things.
It's amazing.
That's a great movie.
When you say banging soccer balls, not like Tom Hanks did on that island when he called it Wilson.
No, Wilson Castaway. No, but that's a true story. Christy Brown, he played Christy Brown. That's one of my favorite Irish movies. Also, same director, In the Name of the Father, Jim Sheridan, also with Daniel Day-Lewis, about the the guys in prison, and it took place. When did In the Name of the Father take place? In the Name of the Father took place in.
It had to be the 90s.
I'm blanking.
Yeah, that's when Day-Lewis was big in the 90s. Had to be in the 90s.
Well,
he was making all those movies over the Gangs of New York and My Left Foot. All that was in the 90s.
Yes.
Right?
Well, the movie came out in the 90s.
There you go.
But it was about the 1974 pub bombings in a place called Guilford.
Yes.
And he's really with Pete Postlethwaite and Daniel Day were in prison for most of the movie.
An IRA movie, essentially.
Yeah, it's an IRA movie.
Yeah.
But here's two movies that I really love. One is schmaltzy that you're not going to like, and one is just like fascinating. There's a movie called The Magdalene Sisters. I don't know if you ever saw this particular movie. The Magdalene Sisters? No, that's not the schmaltzy one. I'll get to the schmaltzy one in a minute. The schmaltzy one is Brooklyn, which is about
I never saw it, but I wanted to see
which is about the Irish immigrant experience. I'll get to that in a minute. But the Magdalene Sisters, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. It was made in 2003, and Peter Mullen is the director of this movie. And there's these laundries in Ireland. They're called laundries, but what they really are these prisons where they send supposedly fallen women that get pregnant out of wedlock, or they're even flirty, and they're like subjected to these places. So the first half of the movie is like a horror story. These four girls are like, sentenced to this place. And the second half of the movie is like The Great Escape. It's they're going to bust out of this place.
Sounds great.
It's great. It's just absolutely great.
Now, Brooklyn I wanted to see. I don't know what it was about. What was Brooklyn about?
Brooklyn stars Saoirse Ronan, who, is in a lot of stuff. And
she's a hot actress right now.
Right, she's great.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn is about this, she plays this girl who, in her 20s, who leaves Ireland they send her through the church, they send her to America, to Brooklyn, to have a better life. And she lives in a boarding house, and she's homesick and she's lonely until she meets this Italian guy who likes Irish women, who's hanging out at Irish dances. And she goes, "You're not Irish." She goes, "No, I like Italian women. I like Irish women."
Right.
And it's really about the Irish American. She lives in a boarding house, as I said, and it's really about the Irish American immigrant experience. She has to go back to Ireland for a family emergency. And she leaves this guy behind who gets her pregnant.
Oh, God.
But she meets this other guy when she's in Ireland, and she's not really showing yet. But it's she has to make a decision whether she wants to.
Sounds like a whore.
No, this is great. This is a really great. This is a great movie.
It sounds good. Now, by the way, what you have to understand is I only like schmaltzy movies.
Okay, well,
but I will not give a schmaltzy performance an award over a deep performance. I found Rami Malek's performance to be so lack of depth, so unlike the real Freddie Mercury, that it was almost insulting. Very little drugs, very little gay sex. He sang and he looked like him. Where Vigo transformed himself into a 1960s Italian guy driving through the South.
Well, they sanitized Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
Big time. Because Queen owns the rights.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's what happened. I mean, the guy who played Borat,
Sacha Baron Cohen,
was originally going to do it, and they fired him off the movie because he wanted to show the real debauchery that, like,
which they should have done. Then he would deserve the Academy Award, not that performance.
This was exactly what you said, Bernie. Is what they did is Queen had a heavy hand in the script, and they wanted to. It was kind of like these nights of partying, and he's like, "Oh, that was quite a night last night, Freddie." You know what I mean? Instead of
give me a break, so, let's get effed up, and then they go to the next scene. Let's see it.
But Vigo was like, I mean, literally, and if you've seen Vigo in other movies, I mean, and people said who are not from the Bronx, and I am from the Bronx, that it was a little too much deems and does, and he was overdoing the accent. I said, not at all. I know that family. I don't, not the real family. Yeah. I know those people. Tony the Lip Vallelonga, just great.
He was great,
and I love that movie.
One more Irish movie for you, then we got to go. What about the movie The Commitments? Where do you put that?
I like The Commitments.
Okay.
I like The Commitments. Well, Alan Parker, who did Midnight Express and a bunch of other great movies. Irish,
that was good.
Irish pub band and cover band.
It was fun. It was funny. Good music. And finally, our next guest is a man named Malachi McCourt. His brother wrote Angela's Ashes, Frank McCourt,
who taught at Stuyvesant High School, like a few blocks from here.
That's exactly right. Now, that movie,
Angela's Ashes,
a very dark movie, of course, because of the poverty in Limerick, but you did like that.
Robert Carlyle, the eye off the fish, that's how poor they are.
Yes, indeed.
Very, very memorable.
And so that's our next guest, just FYI, we're going to speak to him. But in the meantime, Neil Rosen, you are a great guest.
Oh, great guest.
Thank you.
You really are.
What do we got coming up next? What can we do? What's the next?
Tribeca. We could look at Tribeca Film Festival opens in April. I could tell you some really.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
But can I tell you about a quick? You have a quick minute?
Go ahead. Quick minute. Go ahead.
Okay. Opening in theaters today and on Netflix. All these movies now they're made for Netflix. The Highwaymen. It's with Woody Harrelson and Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner doing kind of like an older version of the character, the Touchables. This is the flip side of Bonnie and Clyde. I love Bonnie and Clyde, the '67 movie.
Yeah, me too.
With Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, directed by Arthur Penn. This is about the guys who killed them, who tracked them down. They're Texas Rangers. Yeah. The FBI couldn't find these guys, and they're using like old school techniques of like tracking, looking at footprints.
Yeah. What's the name of the movie?
It's called The Highwaymen.
The Highwaymen.
And it's about it's the other side of the coin.
And it's Netflix or it's
in theaters now. It'll be on Netflix at the end of the month. And it's kind of like both movies, Bonnie and Clyde, and this movie sync up at the end.
I love it.
But it's like, at the end of Bonnie and Clyde, the way all these guys they shoot Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde aren't even in this movie. It's about these guys, how they found Bonnie and Clyde, because they were very elusive.
Sounds excellent. We're going to check that out. We will check that out. Hey, Neil, thank you. You're really, really, really good. Thank you so much.
I'll see you soon.
That was a blast. Neil Rosen, everybody. Yes. We'll take a short break. Still lots more to come. 40 more minutes of Bernie and Sid right after this.
Bernie and Sid in the morning.